What up, peeps? Welcome
I
to
refuse to
episode
support
of the
this.
Late Night Hobbies podcast. I'm Tony.
I'm Cody.
Oh my God, Cody, the game has changed. We're not playing the same game we were yesterday. The balanced data slate for Warhammer 40k just came out, and slap your mama, get the hot tamale out of your mouth. This shit is spicy as fuck.
Thank God.
Yeah. It's thank God is correct, because there are definitely there are huge winners, there are huge losers, and then there were moments while reading through it that had me scratching my head. But I think all around it's a pretty positive experience for every army except for one that I know you're dying to get into. So why don't we just start with you?
Yeah, so we will start. We'll start with the core rule up here first. I don't believe there are any changes up here. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
I didn't see any core rule changes, no. I think everything has pretty much stayed the same, because I pulled up a picture of the last one, and everything looks the same to me.
I know they put out a extended rules commentary section, but I don't believe anything here has changed. So we'll go straight to... do you want to start with the sisters, or do you want to go straight to Aeldari and come back to sisters?
I know you're dying for it. We can do it any way you want, my friend.
I say we start with Aeldari and loop back. So, first off, I want to say one number that came out relatively recently that was kind of surprising to me. So, since December 1st, essentially when Codex Necrons and Codex Admat came out, the win percentages, Aeldari is only at a 54% win rate, which puts them, I believe, third best in the game. If I'm correct. What was that?
What is Photon? 55?
So 54 or no. They were a little lower than that. They may have been like 53.
Oh, okay. I thought that up there.
Yeah. So, well, this is real stats. This isn't inflated GW stats.
Real Warhammer. We're playing a game called Honest.
Yeah, this was only five round tournaments with 20 plus or 32 plus players being the criteria. So I say that to say Aeldari are a powerhouse, have been since the launch of 10th. But it appears that they have been somewhat managed at the top tables of Warhammer. But GW has taken a few steps to ensure that they will stay away from those tables for the foreseeable future. And I don't know about you, but I'm super excited. I don't know that you fully ever got bullied by the 10 Wraithguard, triple Night Spinner, double Avatar lists.
I haven't been bullied by Aeldari, definitely not to the extent that you have, but it was nice of Games Workshop to throw the community a bone and put their personal John Hancock on the fucking gravestone of this army.
Yeah, here lies the elves, signed James Workshop.
Here lies the space elves, rip in pepperoni.
So, wonderful news. So starting out, Strands of Fate, which is one of the most, I would say it's the second best army mechanic in the game, behind only the Sisters Fate dice. I do think Fate dice are better. I think they're a more spammable mechanic, but the Strands of Fate are a phenomenal army rule. Well, they have cut that pool of 12 dice completely in half. So they are at 6 dice now starting out. That is a massive change. I think that, as we've talked about before, I think that makes Eldrad a auto take, as he now gives you a 50% increase as opposed to a 25% fake dice increase.
Same thing earlier to Clay, yeah. He became infinitely more valuable.
Infinitely. So he will be in every competitive Aeldari list. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Out of the window here on the left, if you can.
Say it again.
Can Kat take this pop-up window out of the chat over here on the left?
No. It minimized down to that. It would not let me take it completely away.
Cool enough. At least they know that we can start a game.
But so beyond that, the Fates Messenger enhancement. So this was an enhancement that basically allowed the bearer to flip a dice to a 6 within a certain aura. I believe it was 12 inches. Could be wrong.
I think so too.
I believe it was 12. Well, that is now locked to the bearer only, which is another fantastic change. It basically means you can't hide a Farseer in a building and just flip 6s for dev wounds or 6s for saves or whatever the case may be.
We just got a whole ass ad from somebody. Get the fuck out of here.
I saw that. It distracted me. I was like, what is that? Clay, you should go click on that if you're still listening. Or did they give a link? Yeah.
Hey, thank God you can get off the ground finally.
But potentially one of the biggest changes to Aeldari is the Phantasm stratagem.
Oh,
Tony, I don't know if you've ever been victimized by the Phantasm stratagem, but it is easily the most overpowered stratagem in the game. Before today at about 10 a.m. It used to be that at the end of every opponent's move phase, you could just pick a unit and let it move 6 inches. So it made Wraithguard and whatnot units just completely uninteractive because you could just jump them 1 inch out of a building and then 1 CP jump them back in the building, and they could never be touched. You now have to roll a d6. So
in the last data slate, it was already changed to just infantry, which was already a good change. But rolling the d6 instead of making the normal move is really big.
Correct. It was super toxic when the Avatar of Cain could do it, or any of number of their ships could do it.
Fucking Wraith Knight disappear.
Yeah, Wraith Knight pop out, shoot you, jump back. So the infantry change was a needed change, but also the little it was a needed change to go to infantry only. But the D6 makes it more fair, in my opinion. It essentially just turns it into a slightly better version of the Space Marine. The Space Marine Runaway Strap. The name's escaping me, but
yeah, I think it was a good change.
100%. The next one was the dreaded Night Spinners. So Night Spinners used to be able to not only indirect shoot you with mortals, but they could also keep your units from advancing. So this just made armies like Orcs or Black Templars or World Eaters or any number of armies that counted on being able to advance to be able to get into contact with people. It just eviscerated them. Because you just have 3 Night Spinners, and that's 3 units that can no longer move, essentially, in the turn. So they just turned that into a -2 to your advance, which is still a tough, that's still a good rule, but it's just not absolutely broken anymore.
Right. It's not breaking your army. It's not like oh man, I got this matchup. Anyway, enjoy your W.
Exactly. It turned a lot of matchups into just absolute auto wins for them, and it no longer does that. Which Night Spinners, I don't think will be a problem for other reasons anymore. Next, the Incarn. They changed her teleport, so you can only do it once per turn. I need to do more research into this. But the way it's worded to me is it says each of your turns, which indicates to me that she cannot run away on your opponent's turn anymore. And if that's the case, then that is a fantastic change.
I think anything that prevents a model that tough from just being like, oh, well, I had my fun. Anyway, I'll see you next turn is a good change.
Yeah, it was such an uninteractive model because
Right.
one little sequencing issue of oops, I killed this when I should have been shooting the Incarn, and now she just teleported across the board. It was such a feels bad moment when you made that mistake. So that being out of the game is a good thing. The final change to rules for Aeldari was the Wraith Guard have an ability that allows them to shoot back in the shooting phase once per turn, which is absolutely just obscene. If you're essentially getting shot by 10 last cannon on your turn for trying to deal with this already unsolvable unit, well, now it is at least locked to the unit that shot them. So they can only target the unit that shot them now. They can no longer just get shot and then take cheap shots like blow you off an objective or kill the unit that you had set up to do a secondary or things like that. Which I think is a good change because that was so toxic.
Right. I agree with that as well. And, it should removing stuff like that from the game is all around good changes. I still think, obviously, like you said, shooting fucking 10 las cannons in my turn is rough.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt bad. Let me just tell you. Yeah. I don't have much to say on Wraith Guard. They're the most despised unit in the game, in my opinion. They were the most broken aspect of Aeldari, in my opinion, which, you see Aeldari and a lot of people were scared of the Night Spinners. They were scared of the avatars, so on and so forth. But the Wraith Guard were by far the most broken part of them. But I think we can dance on their grave now. And we'll get into points. They honestly, they didn't get hit as hard as I thought they would in points. But I think GW hit them hard enough with the rules that I don't think they will be an issue.
And I mean, they had already modified points pretty drastically the last time, by my understanding, except for a few key models that probably deserved a little more of a shakeup.
Well, the funny part about Aeldari is their entire codex, their entire index was good. Like you either like, yeah, they were such a frustrating army, but they will no longer be a frustrating army.
They were definitely not an army that everybody was like, Codex when? It was like, I'm good. Leave it the way.
Yeah, the people who have been taking Aeldari to tournaments for the last 10 months have been dreading this day since that index launched last June or whenever they came out. Like, they have been dreading this day, and the day has finally come.
You're that guy when you know that shit's coming. Everybody knew this.
Yeah. Everybody knew it was coming. It was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when, and it has finally arrived, and I couldn't be happier personally. Yeah, the Wraith Guard did go up in points. They're one of the few. There were actually only 2 units in the entire Aeldari index that got hit with points.
Yeah, it was the
Wraith Guard and the Night Spinner.
Yeah, the Night Spinners. Which they also got, like you said, a rules change.
They got double nerfed, which is good. They deserved it. They were absolutely toxic, but so now we'll quit dancing on the grave of Aeldari, and you want to start doing it in order?
So, going in order, Jumping
Going in order.
now, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think some of these have actually changed, but do you have the old one pulled up?
I do not. I do not. It should be in the app though, since you haven't updated your app.
The old rules.
Yeah, go to core rules and then it's like additional. Hold on, I can tell you exactly what it's called. Key documents. It's right under core rules.
I've got core. I don't have that option.
Click on.
Oh, further rules. No, it's not any of that.
No, it's if you go back to where the core rules is actually on there with all the armies, it's below it there. It's not in core rules.
Key documents. Balanced data slate from autumn. All right, let's go. Sisters of Battle, which is
Sororitas.
fucking the stream up. Oh, Adeptus Sororitas is what they're called.
Yeah.
It's not in here. So I guess that's new because they're not in here.
Yeah, so I think this was a new change. It essentially just the Triumph of Saint Catherine and a couple other models basically give off now an aura to where you can use 2 acts of faith per phase instead of 1 on those units, which is a good change. It just makes the Triumph of Saint Catherine was already a really good model. Makes it a little better. I don't think it's a significant change either way, though.
Well, it's one of those. It's like I don't think anybody was saying, "Man, Adeptus Sororitas is oppressive."
100% agree. Like they're a good, they're a solid army. But so I think it's a solid change to go with them. It'll help a little, but it's not going to change the game in any drastic way.
So we can, in which case, what do you got next?
The next army, which is going to change the game in a drastic way, I feel. I think there are 2 big winners in this update. Well, I think there are 3 really big winners, and I think this next army, Adeptus Custodes, is one of those 3 big winners. The first thing they got is they now get their 4-up Feel No Pain that used to be against mortals. It also applies to Devastating Wound.
Oh, excellent. I think we had actually, you and I had talked about that the other day. I actually think it was on the other stream. We mentioned that what they would do, and I had said something like a 5-up Feel No Pain or something like that. And we weren't really sure what they were going to do about it, but that's a good change.
Yeah, so they got their 4-up Feel No Pain against Dev Wounds, and that is huge. That's one of the 2 fixes that Custodes needed. And yeah, you can't overstate how big a change that is. Because Dev Wounds being changed the way it was a unintentional absolute nerf, just an absolute hammer on Custodes. Because it invalidated their entire, detachment rule. So big buff there. Secondly, they had the stratagem for unwavering. Okay, so their fight first stratagem got changed back to a battle tactic. So their best 2 stratagems, the fights first and the -1 damage, are both battle tactics now. Wait, never mind. That's Epic Deed. Excuse me.
That's embarrassing, dude.
It is. So, and I'm sitting here reading it on the app too. But, so, yeah. So that is actually just a change that happened in the last data slate. So that's nothing new. So the rest of their stuff is nothing new. They just, their 10 man's getting cut to a maximum of 5.
which I'm okay with.
I'm okay. I think the devastating wounds change and points help that they got will make them. They're going to be with the top 2 armies in the game crumbling into darkness. They are going to be one of the armies that jumps to the top. Astra Militarum would be next. Do you have Astra Militarum up to tell me if this is different? Because honest to God, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so Astra Militarum. It doesn't look like Astra Militarum was in the last one. So this is all straight up buffs or nerfs.
So this is new. So if your army faction is Astra Militarum, officer models with this ability can issue orders. Each officer's data sheet will specify how many orders it can issue and which units are eligible to receive those orders. Each time an officer model issues an order, select one of these orders below. Then select one eligible friendly unit within 6 inches of the officer model to issue. Officer models can issue orders in your command phase and at the end of a phase in which they disembark from a transport. Okay, so this is essentially allowing you to keep your characters in their transport safe, get out, and not lose the ability to give orders. So basically, they can give the order once they get out of the transport now. So that is a good quality of life change. I don't think that's anything game breaking either.
Well, my boy Solaris can get off his horse.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's just a good, solid change in my opinion. Nothing crazy. Blood Angels. So Blood Angels got a very small change, but I think it's a good change.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that the change to Blood Angels was really good. I don't think it's going to move them up much, but I think they're going to get played more just because getting the 1 attack and strength 2 with access to Lance means so much more. When you've got characters that went from walking up and having strength 9 to now that rule gives them strength 10 is a large threshold to punch up with Lance that wasn't there before.
Yeah, strength 10 with Lance is a huge breakpoint. It allows you to wound an armiger on a 3.
Exactly. You went from feasibly, if you wanted to dedicate it, put your characters and all your mean shit into, taking out a rhino and attacking the units inside. But now there's some legitimate threat to attacking serious firepower, or, like you said, just an armiger as a baseline. Being able to walk up and beat the tar out of an armiger makes the army. I don't think it's going to break anything. I don't think you're going to all of a sudden start seeing them at the tops of tournaments, but I think it's enough of a change that people are going to try and see what kind of shenanigans they can pull off with that army.
Yeah, I agree. I think Blood Angels players will be a little disappointed when they read the points part of this and see they got no changes.
Well,
but
where'd the aggressors go?
Do I?
Where'd the aggressors go?
But I think this is a solid change to their detachment. Like you said, nothing game breaking, nothing that's gonna just change the meta, in my opinion. Go ahead. I personally still think Blood Angels is probably best played in Gladius, just for the access to advance and charge on 12-inch movement models. But yeah, this makes this detachment a little more appealing, in my opinion.
So I had said it to Ronnie earlier. I think that for me, like you said, because at the end of the day, you're not just competing with Blood Angels, which is something I guess they forgot. You're competing with Gladius Tax Force. And I think that if you were going to double the strength, if you were going to make it +2 strength, I would have made it +2 to attacks as well, if it was me. And I think that turns it from a pretty good change to I'm starting to think about trying this out. You know what I mean? It's not just, everything you were already doing is a little bit stronger, but 2 additional attacks per model and 2 additional strength per model, I think would have made it more of a contender for. I guess I'm not bringing Gladius anymore.
100%. I think +2 attack and strength is the threshold of where you could make the argument that this is at least the equal of Gladius.
Right.
But I think Gladius remains the undisputed kind of top detachment for melee armies in the Space Marine faction.
Oh, and I agree completely.
Next, Chaos Demons. I know you've done a little research into them, so I'll let you kind of.
Chaos Demons. So Chaos Demons, the rules haven't really, if I'm being completely honest, they haven't really changed all that much from what they were. Now, they're not in my list. So the changes that are up there are changes that, to my knowledge, are new. But I can't really, I'm fumbling this. So Chaos Demons, the Demonic Pact rule. So add an additional paragraph. In addition, for each of the following keywords, the number of non-battle line units with that keyword you include in this way cannot be greater than the number of battle line units with that keyword you include in this way. So the way it reads, basically to me, is, and if I fuck this up, Lord help me, but the way I'm understanding it is they've implemented this to prevent basically the spam. Like I think one of the last tournaments you went to at Lenlock, you were seeing all Zinch. And now you're locked to where if you want to run Zinch demons, you can't run more Zinch demons than you have battle line units on the table. So if you want to example spam flamers like you were before, you have to have 6 Zinch keyword battle line demons on the table to run 6 additional units of non-battle line Zinch. So it's turning the army, which is where we're going to get into the other changes that they made down the road. But it's going to turn the army back into like demon soup, where you're mixing models together versus, I feel like as of recent, you were starting to see people really run a lot of one thing that was working well. Particularly Zinch, but that's not going to be a thing anymore by the way that I understand it. In order to assemble the army of Chaos Demons, you're going to have to either suck or limit yourself. You know, you're going to have to bring more things than just spamming flamers for objectives and running the Lords of Changes. If you want to put 6 3-mans of flamers or whatever, not 3-mans, I think they're 6-mans.
I think they can go 3 or 6.
If you want to run 6 3-mans, great, go for it. But you have to put 6 battle line units of Zinch on the table, and that's whew, I don't know about all that, G.
Yeah, 100% agree. Another one is like Slanesh. Like, I can't tell you the last time I saw a Slanesh battle line unit on the table, but every list had a Shalaxi. So that's going to be a big one too.
The idea of Chaos Demons being in order to run this, I have this, which is where, like I said, we're going to get to the points because, oh boy, there's stuff to talk about on those points. And I think the reason for that was, I think it's a good change. I don't think they understand the repercussions of what they've done here, but I think all around it's a good change for the army. I have yet to, I will say, just to footnote it for later, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of Chaos Demons. I'm just going to say that, and we'll get to everything else later, and we'll see why. But as far as the army rule change in a vacuum, I think it's a good rule. I think that it makes, like you said, it makes it a lot more of a trade-off to where it's not just yeah, I'm going to put this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. You know what I mean? And then you're walking around fighting 6 greater demons, and it's like, what the hell is happening? Because
Yeah.
at the very least, you're not fighting 6 greater demons and 20 fucking flamers coming out of deep strike. Now it's, oh, I'm fighting 4 greater demons, and here are all their screens that basically follow them around because I had to bring the Slanesh keyword.
Yeah, I think personally this change, in addition to the changes we'll see later, will keep them relatively balanced. I think if we would have just got the points we got, they would have jumped straight to the top, you know. But I think this is going to help kind of balance that out.
Well, we'll get there.
Next, I'm about to get the dance on another grave, Tony, and I'm very happy. The Chaos Space Marines. So, the Chaos Space Marines, in my opinion, got hit infinitely harder than Aeldari did. Not really disputable, in my opinion. There are 2 armies, in my opinion, that are fundamentally 3 armies. There are 3 armies that are fundamentally changing how they play the game based on this data slate. One of them being Aeldari, the other one being Chaos Space Marines. The third is Drukhari, which we'll get to later. But you're not going to be able to copy and paste tournament lists from last week and it work now. The first change is the Mark of Chaos detachment rule restriction section. So essentially what they have done is whatever mark, for those who aren't familiar with the Chaos marks, you basically have to choose a Chaos God mark to put on each unit. Slanesh, Nurgle, whatever the case. You can no longer mix marks with transports. So, for example, what this is eliminating is the undivided chosen unit hiding in a Nurgle transport, a Nurgle Rhino that could not be shot, could not be interacted with.
Well,
and then
I didn't mean to interrupt, but for the record, in just a second here, we're also going to see that itself become far less oppressive due to a threshold barrier that you're going to see in just a second.
100%. Essentially, the Nurgle Rhino combo is dead. It's dead and gone. Chaos Space Marine players are just going to have to adjust because there's like GW. They put the stamp on that one. Like that is over. And what you were talking about is that they have changed the Nurgle strat that allowed the Rhinos or anything with the Nurgle mark to get loan op for 1 CP. And so whether that was a Rhino that was in a mid-board position ready to throw Chosen on you, or it was a Forge Fiend shooting you from the backboard, that is no longer a 12-inch loan up. It is now an 18-inch loan up, which is a massive change.
For a lot of weapons in the game.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of weapons in the game are 18-inch. Or right around. And so
it's not perfect, but it turns the stratagem, like you said, back into what they probably intended it as a, I've got this thing sitting on the back of the board. Here's a stratagem that prevents you from blowing it up because it's a Wednesday. I believe that was what it was supposed to be, and now that is what it is, because with 18 inches, you're not sitting on the center of the table and just eliminating the ability to be interacted with anything in my deployment zone.
100%. And so I think this is just a fantastic change. It takes a lot of that toxicity out. Because that was one of those things that like every turn you just had to plan for against Chaos Space Marines, and you had to mentally prepare. What is he going to use this? Because the Chaos Space Marine player used it basically every turn.
Yeah, it was it was literally every turn.
It was like they just earmarked a CP every turn for this strat. And I don't think that will be the case going forward.
100%, I agree.
Next, they made a change to the full rerolls stratagem.
And that's where they add
So
Chaos Undivided.
yeah, so essentially, Chaos Undivided with this particular stratagem. Previously, you got full rerolls to hit and wound. They have now changed it to where you only get full rerolls to wound, which is still a really good strat.
Oh, absolutely.
However, what this is going to fix is I have full rerolls to hit and wound for 1 CP, and sustained hits, and lethal hits,
Oh,
and dev wound. Like, you can't just fish for those hits now.
right.
You're going to have to roll those honestly, and then
Not
roll
being
your wounds.
for the sustained hits and the lethal hits on 5-ups is a big change. I think it's a brutal change, but I think it's a fair change.
100%. Like, it was Chaos Space Marines had the undisputed most damage, the highest damage output ceiling in the game, and this just kind of puts them back in line with the rest of the game,
Right.
in my opinion.
And it's another one of those. You're talking about a loan up earmark, but let's be real. You gain 2 CP a turn. One of those was going to loan up, and the other one was going to fish for those lethals.
Well, yeah, you basically on your opponent's turn, you got your CP for your loan up strat. On your turn, you got your CP for kill whatever.
CP for kill something.
Yeah, like that's just how it was, and hopefully that will not be the case anymore. I believe final Chaos Space Marine change, yes, is that they made some changes to accursed cultist. Number one, they turned them into OC1 models as opposed to OC2. So these used to be, 16. They used to be 21 model units, that 16 of which were OC2. That's a lot of beef, and
Well,
especially what? Go ahead.
that is one change that I'm thrilled to see, because with the shit that you could stick inside one of those units, I'm telling you from experience, with my list, and you know what my list is, when I tell you that I struggled to take objectives from Chaos Space Marine, cultists and shit, it was fucking insane. Like you said, just by sheer volume of, look at all the stuff I can stand on here.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the reason Manny China won the World Championships of Warhammer last year was the 42 accursed cultist he had in his list. Like, it was a kind of off meta pick that he did that ended up becoming meta because it was just so dang good. And so making anything to make them a little less dominant, I'm okay with. The second change that this unit got is at the start of your command phase, you can return destroyed models. This was at the beginning of each turn, I believe. So locking that to just one, the active player's turn of Chaos Space Marines is big. Keeps them from it puts them more in line with Necron's reanimation protocol, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Next up, we have Death Guard. I don't know that any of this is new. Maybe you can pull theirs up.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Just reading through it, it looks like they just fixed a typo. is what that is.
The only thing I'm not sure about was the grenades.
Yeah, the 0
I don't. Yeah,
I don't
I don't
believe
know
that
if
was.
that was one model locked per battle. Yeah, per round.
And it's been changed to once per battle.
Okay, so yeah. Each model can only do it once per battle, but you can only do it once per turn.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think that was locked to just one before.
And Death Watch has also remained the same because I remember it distinctly from last time that there was an entire fucking novel that they wrote about what was a bolt weapon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have not changed a bit. May God have mercy on their souls. I think we can do Drakari a little later, as I don't know if you're aware, but they got an entire new detachment, but it is in a different location.
Oh, I must have missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that's why I said I think they are the third army that is fundamentally changed. GW basically gave them the Death Guard treatment of the last Slate. They got an entire new detachment, and I'm not gonna lie to you and pretend that I know everything Eldari does, but it seems to be a good change for them.
Now, so I'm sorry. Go ahead with Gene Healers because I'm excited about Grey Knights.
So, Gene Stealers, I also don't believe was changed from the last one.
I don't think so either.
Could be wrong. No, that all looks the same.
So, Grey Knights. Oh,
Grey Knights.
Thank you, because Grey Knights' biggest problem is they're cheap. They have a really good army rule, but the lethality. And for me, one of the biggest issues with lethality was the Nemesis Dread Knight and the Grandmaster in the Nemesis Dread Knight. And while a small change, they have been changed. They have straight up modified a data sheet. It's fine. We'll just forget about the Riptide. That's okay. But GW has proven that they can modify a data sheet when it just doesn't work. So Haloed and Soulfire, that's the same as it was. But the Psy Cannon and the Nemesis Demon Greathammer and the Nemesis Demon Greatsword have both been changed. So the Heavy Psy Cannon is now AP2 damage 3, which ignores cover and is a psychic attack. So AP2 ignores cover versus I think it was
AP1.
I wanted it was AP1. I don't think it was AP0, but
it also did not ignore cover previously.
Oh, it didn't. But
no.
Oh my god. So much better. So much more lethal for, basically the backbone of your firepower in Grey Knights. The other thing is the Nemesis Demon Greathammer. And I want to say this hit on a 4. But
it was at least a 3.
Oh, you're saying it hits on 3s?
It was at least, you should have it, but I know it at least hit.
I'm talking about the. I'm talking about the.
Oh, the Greathammer. Yeah.
Yeah, the Greathammer. I want to say it hit on 4s, and to increase the power of that, they made it hit on 3s. Yeah, I've got it right here. So the Nemesis Demon Greathammer hit on 4s. Now it hits on 3s, which is just monument. You're talking about a 16.6% output increase. Just right there. There it is. This weapon was already good. Now it's actually going to hit something. Here's 5 attacks. Have a good day. And then with the Nemesis Greatsword, it hits on 2s. It hits on 2s, Willis. It hits on 2s.
Yeah, I think you're about to see the Dread Knight meta. I think a lot of Grey Knights lists will have 2 to 3 of these in every list.
Well, I mean, and you've got the Grandmaster. So my understanding,
you could have 4. Yeah, you could have 4 for sure.
So
yeah, AP2 ignore cover is effectively AP3.
Yeah, essentially, you're walking around in an edition where, if you don't have cover, you're an idiot.
Yeah, if you don't have cover in this edition, you're just
Are you trolling?
Be better. Yeah, be better. Unless you're playing Tau. Yeah, fantastic change to them.
And then Imperial Knights, all those rules look the same to me. I remember reading all of that. It's just all the nerfs that they had before. Nothing has changed.
Agreed.
To my understanding.
It
And
would have been
that's,
nice to see them get their bondsman ability back.
I was going to say, the
Uh,
only thing that's really a severe disappointment about that is I think a lot of people were talking about expecting that the bondsman would go back to the large knights. And I don't think that that's necessarily a must. I don't think it was what really broke the army, because people can call it whatever they want. Let's be real. Knights were cracked, and they were cracked because towering was oppressively underthought out. And the only reason why Knights suck is because they kept the points that they were at and lost towering. So losing the Arminger ability was kind of like kicking a dead horse, but
yeah, it was salt in the wound.
I don't really see it as oh man, we didn't get that. And we will find out why that is here in a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
I go on to Leagues of Votan.
Leagues of Votan, the Short Kings. I do not believe any of their stuff was changed either.
I don't think so.
GW did a fantastic job with them in the last Data Slate. I don't think they really needed to adjust them.
Which they did. They just didn't adjust the rules. Which
they adjusted their points, which we'll get to. But yeah, their rules stayed the same.
Space Marines, they put a friendly little reminder in there to all the people that had to go through Desolation Marines. Just remember, it's over. It's over, guys.
Looking at you, Ryan.
All wounds in Overwatch. It's okay.
Looking at you, Ryan. Space Wolves. So they made some wording changes here. None of it is really relevant. The detachment is still absolute trash, bottom of the heap. I personally think that they are the next army that needs a complete revamp of their detachment. It's undisputedly now the worst detachment in the game. So yeah, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on them. World Eaters. So this was a couple changes that kind of hurt my heart as I'm sitting here building World Eaters
on stream.
Yeah. So, the Berserker Glaive enhancement. So this previously was an enhancement that you put on a character, i.e., the Master of Execution. And every time he ended a charge move, he got to roll a D3.
Get it
and
out.
You added that D3 to his attacks and damage. So you're talking about just a humble man, just a humble servant of chaos that was walking around with 9 attacks of strength 8, minus 2 AP, 5 damage, with devastating wounds, and 4 rerolls to hit and wound against characters.
It's like, hey, what's this little berserker guy over here doing? Oh, don't worry about that. Anyway,
don't mind him. Yeah, he would one-shot Magnus.
How many throws did you fail? Oh, 6. That's 30 damage.
Yeah, like I rolled 3 6s to wound after rerolling. Yeah, that's 15 dev wounds. Get him out of here. Magnus is dead.
Why did that happen, you ask? Because it was a Wednesday.
Well, I think that honest to God, going into this, that was what I anticipated to happen to World Eaters, because that was just the fact that the Master of Execution's a 95-point model could walk up and one-shot Magnus didn't sit right with me. So I'm okay with that change. Like, I was anticipating it. Still hurts, but
yeah, I was gonna say, don't lie, Willis. You're like, why didn't I jump on this train earlier?
Yeah, it hurts. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. But like I said, I anticipated it. What I did not anticipate was the next one. So Favorite of Corn. This was an enhancement that allowed you to reroll your Blessings of Corn roll once per battle round. This was a key instrument in bringing Angron back. It has been rendered useless. It is now a once per battle enhancement.
Right. It is gone from the automatic, let me do this again, I didn't like that, to you really need to plan, I really need X, Y, or Z this turn. And with some of the points changes, I know you're going to make fun of me. But that change in itself, more than I think it was like a 30 points drop, dude. The Lord of Skulls is in. The Lord of Skulls is in. You can't keep arguing it, Willis. The Lord of Skulls is in. Because now, if you want to bring back Angron, you need the Lord of Skulls. You need him. He's in.
I'm not going to get into Lord of Skulls right now.
Come on,
short
man.
answer is no. He stays on the shelf.
He's a tank tar.
Anyway,
Rule of cool.
So yeah, this turns into an enhancement that before was a absolute auto take. Like you had to take it. If you didn't take it, why were you even playing World Eaters? Do I need the 20 points elsewhere? Because if I do, I may just cut this.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's like you put your list together and you're like, oh, I've got 20 points to spare. I guess I can re-roll this once.
Yeah, I guess we'll take favored. If I don't have the 20 points, get it out of here.
We'll put that guy on the shelf right next to
you showed some restraint. I don't know if you noticed Clay in the chat, Tony, but he showed restraint when we dissed Magnus.
Hold on. Hold on. Check DM.
The final change to World Eaters, this one was like, is it because it was Tuesday and you released? Were you mad because you had to release your data slate on Tuesday instead of Thursday? I'm not sure. But effectively, it turned the Demon Prince aura of 4-up Invuln into a 5-up Invuln, unless you already have an Invuln, in which it turns it into a 4. This just like nobody's playing Demon Princes first off, so why? I got nothing to say on that one. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add, but
well,
whatever.
what I'm going to add is, like you said yourself, I think I've seen this ability come into effect in a meaningful way that I would remember. Since 10th edition came out, let's see, carry the one, 0 times.
Exactly.
And now we'll stay that way.
Like, nobody was running this combo to begin with. They are really not going to run it now. So, whatever, GW. Thank you.
It's like,
thanks for crushing me.
That's my favorite part about 10th edition. Their ability to, give every model its place, and nothing says that better than the dedicated display model keyword, and they have handed another one out to the Demon Prince today.
The Demon Prince of Khorne has been put on the shelf.
Dedicated
as he already was. They just, ensured he was going to stay there another 6 months.
When you take, just for everybody listening right now, just when you take the Demon Prince out of the list, understand that leaves you plenty of points for, I don't know, something, just throw something out there. A Khorne Lord of Skulls!
No. Actual good units, i.e. Exalted 8-Mount.
Put it in the list.
Get it out of here.
Lord of Skulls. It's a tank tar.
Get it out of here.
It's going to happen. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to kick your ass. 4 Lords of Skulls.
You can only run 3.
Only if you read the rules.
Sure.
So, let's go back to, I'll tell you what, let me step out here real quick and grab a charger, and then we will jump on a Drukari, and we'll let you get started with that. If you want to go ahead and run through to where it's at, because I don't know where you're looking at this, and we'll jump on it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
All right. So let's see what we got here. Pull this bad boy up. Now, where was this at? Was that the document to download?
Well, so if you go to the actual MetaWatch post that they made,
Mhm.
they have the data slate and the build manual, and then you scroll down and it's down here.
I guess I completely missed that because, now, granted, I was researching everything at work for the podcast, but in the process of researching that, I had no idea about this. So I'm gonna let you walk me through it because this is the first time you're seeing my reaction live.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of, because this is absolute brand new information, we'll kind of read through it line by line. So the Army rules, to my knowledge, stayed the same. I don't think it's changed any. The pain tokens mechanic.
Yeah, you use a pain token, and it gives you reroll all wounds.
No.
Hmm?
It gives you advance and charge or reroll hit roll. And +1 AP in melee. So did it change, or are you making that up?
When I went to Madison and fought at Lords of War, I went up against Drukari in round 3 for my 2-1, and it was reroll. Well, I'll tell you what. Yet again, I haven't updated my app for this exact reason, for comparisons.
Yeah, so
But let's see.
pull that
I guess
bad boy up.
I made sure it was such a weird thing that he got his ass kicked anyway. JK.
Well,
um,
it was Drukari.
it was Drukari. That's true. Drukari just sucked, but it was it made such a little effect on the game that I would have never even thought to make sure that that's what it was. I'm sure he was a really cool guy, and I'm sure he was doing it right. But let me.
So I'm just gonna read the empowered part, and you tell me if it changed or if it stayed the same.
Let me hold on. God damn it!
You tell me when you got it up, and I'll start reading.
Empowered in the movement or charge phase, reroll advance or charge rolls. Empowered in the shooting or fight phase, reroll all hit rolls. Oh well.
Yeah, so I didn't think that it changed, but could have been wrong.
You know
So
what?
yeah, it got him.
I wonder if he played himself. Like I said, I could be misremembering, but I was 99% certain that there was like some dev wound shenanigans, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting way for this army to play.
Gotcha. Yeah, not sure, but nevertheless, it has not. The actual army rule has not changed. The pain tokens still work the same way. But what we have is a brand new detachment. So this is Drukari Real Space Raiders detachment. So
Which is the same name as the last, for the record.
Was it? Okay, I didn't know that. So at the start of the battle, you gain 1 additional pain token for each of the following your army contains: 1 or more Archon models, 1 or more Succubus models, 1 or more Homunculus models. These are all cumulative. So if your army contains at least 1 Archon, at least 1 Succubus, and at least 1 Homunculus, you would start the battle with an additional 3 pain tokens. So essentially, it just kind of boosts that pain token mechanic.
Is that it?
That is the detachment rule, yes, but they have a complete new slate of enhancements, stratagems, all that.
Okay, so that's what's changed, because for the record, Real Space Raiders has always been at the start of the battle. You gain 1 pain token under those prerequisites, and it was cumulative to my knowledge.
Okay, cool.
So it's
that didn't change either.
Not a whole new detachment, but they've refreshed the buffs that you get, because I don't even think he was running any, because I don't think they were very good.
Probably not. So the first enhancement is
Glad that we're
Crucible.
both talking out of our ass about Drukari over here on live.
I swear to God, I've played. I couldn't even begin to count. Probably 150 games of 10th edition, And I have yet to play against Drukari. So, yeah, I couldn't tell you. What can I say? They suck. Like, I unfortunately had to play all the bullies, i.e.
I had
Aeldari.
armies. Real Space Raiders, more like fake space losers. Got 'em.
Yeah, good one. Got them.
I'm glad you agree.
So the first enhancement is called the Crucible of Malediction. So this is a homunculus model only. Once per battle, at the start of any shooting phase, the bearer can use this enhancement. When it does, every enemy unit within 12 inches must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from that test if the bearer's unit is currently empowered. Each time a Scyther unit fails this test, it suffers D3 mortal wounds.
Is that still 10 points?
I do not have the points directly in front of me.
Okay,
We can reference that a little later.
So Crucible of Malediction is old.
Okay. Labyrinth Cunning? Labyrinthine? I don't know. I'm struggling with some of these Drukari words.
I think.
Labyrinthine Cunning. Whatever. Archon model only. Each time you select the bearer's unit as the target of a stratagem, roll 1d6, adding 3 to the result if the stratagem being used is Alliance of Agony. On a 4+, you gain 1 CP.
That is the same.
Okay. Blood Dancer. Succubus model only. Improve the attacks and armor penetration. Hold on, I'm starting to wonder if I'm reading the wrong thing. Yes, I am. I'm just reading you the previous detachment. So, we're just going to start.
Did you just read me the whole Real Space Raiders? And the
yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We'll edit that out.
Fucking
hey,
dumbass.
watch your mouth down there, Clay. So
fucking dumbass. Online.
So, I told you I don't know Drukari.
Clipped.
When like the 5th thing was the same as it was previously, I was like, well, I got to be doing something fucking wrong.
No. Willis is over here like, wow, this Real Space Raiders really changes the game, and all the Drukari players are like, this literally changes nothing.
We have sucked for 10 months. All right. Anyways, so, don't clip that, Clay. So, the brand new shiny Drukari detachment is called the Sky Splinter Assault detachment.
That was already an option.
Cap.
No, I'm fucking with you.
Yeah. All right. So the detachment rule for this is each time a Drukari unit from your army disembarks from a transport until the end of the turn, that unit's ranged weapons have the Ignores cover ability, and that unit's melee weapons have the Lance ability.
Oh my god, that is excellent.
This may bring Drukari melee back. Because I don't know if, other people remember, but in 9th edition, Drukari was a melee faction. And they currently are not.
I'm thinking of oats, man.
Yeah. Boats and hoes.
That is such a huge green flag to what people were already running.
Yeah, the pirates are back.
But to give these fuckers some scurvy.
So, the enhancements. We have Phantasmal Smoke. Drukari model only. While the bearer's unit is wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Drukari transport, models in the bearer's unit have the benefits of cover and the stealth ability. That seems solid. That means you can just get your guys out with their dark lances, stand in the middle of the board, and be -1 to hit and have cover.
Well, what it means is you get your guys out with the dark lances, you spam your shooting, you roll your charge for lance. If you fail, you can stand there till next turn and do it again.
Yeah. Couple sniper. I need more stealth and warm up. The lance seems good. All right, Clay. Not everybody can have Magnus.
Magnus doesn't have Lance.
Yeah, he doesn't have Lance.
He's just always
Get good.
plus.
Get good, Clay. Anyways, the next one, Sadistic Fulcrum. Drukhari model only. Each time you expend a pain token to empower the bearer's unit. In the shooting phase, you can select one friendly Drukhari transport within 3 inches of the bearer's unit until the end of the phase. That transport is also empowered.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh my god. Oh my god.
It appears to be a pretty transport-centric detachment.
But in fairness, though, from what I played, pretty transport centric as it was. I don't think Max is running it that way heavily, but I think there were 2 Drukhari players at Lords of War, and it was as many pirate ships as you could put on the table, and even some aircraft.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think Max runs like 3 or 4 of the boats. Don't honestly know. Never really cared.
Yeah, I didn't give a shit until now. This is just the
I just
juiciest
saw
thing.
all I needed to see was the name Drukhari, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Man, this guy was excited to launch detachment. Wait till he reads this.
Yeah. The next one is Spiteful Raider, Drukhari model only. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an army, each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy unit in the fight phase, if that enemy unit was within range of one or more objective markers when the bearer's unit was selected to fight, you gain an additional pain token.
No kidding.
Yeah. Meh. I don't know.
Well, so what you're basically saying is, let me expunge one of my valuable pain tokens to remove this unit from the table. If I succeed, it's refunded.
Fair.
And then I can go to the next fight and do it again.
Very fair. The only thing I don't know is...
Go ahead.
I don't know what non-named characters in Drukhari are good at melee. So that's where my hesitancy is on that.
Oh, I guess, okay. Fair. For the record, you can take 6 ships, because there's 2 data sheets for it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, you could take 9, because dedicated transports, you can take 6.
Oh, true. That's true.
Yeah. The final one is Nightmare Shroud. Drukhari model only. I do like that all of these are just Drukhari models, so they're not locked to a specific kind. So that's nice. Each time the bearer's unit disembarks from a transport until the end of the turn, enemy units cannot use the fire overwatch stratagem to shoot at the bearer's unit. That is pretty good, in my opinion.
That is, I'm midfield on that one. You know, it depends on how many points it is, because it's like, you know, that's a good ability, but at the same time, you know, how many times you use it, basically.
Yeah, I think that one, when it comes up, is going to be just absolutely busted. But it may only come up once in a 5-round GT. So
right, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, because it's not just that your guys that you don't want to get shot get out. It's your guys that you don't want to shot get out. It's that you've also spent the points to give them an enhancement. It's also that any threat the opponent has wants to overwatch. It's also that the opponent has a command point when this happens. It's also that they don't need it for something else. And it's also that they're within 24 inches of the guys getting out. And it's also that their guns are in range. And I just feel like that's really, really specific of a situation to be like, yes!
yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely a once in a blue moon kind of thing, but when it works, it's going to be big, in my opinion.
Like I said, depends on the points. If it's like a 10, 15 point enhancement, put it in there for, like you said, when it becomes the deterrent, it's like, sorry, man, shoot at something else.
Yeah, for sure. We will get to the stratagems. Number 1, Vicious Blades. This is not a battle tactic. It is 1 CP. In the fight phase, just after a Drakari transport from your army has selected its target. The target is that transport. Effect after your transport has fought. Select one enemy unit that was targeted with one or more of those attacks and roll 1d6 for each model embarked within your transport, adding 1 to the result if the embarked model is a Rax model. For each 5+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound to a maximum of 6.
Oh, so you can double tank shock. That's cool.
That's actually a pretty good little strat in my opinion. Like you said, I mean, that's the potential for 12 mortals just by charging a freaking boat in. Like, I mean, that seems like it could definitely be good.
Ramming speed much.
Yeah. Next, Pounce on the Prey. This is also not a battle tactic in 1 CP. When your movement phase, just after a Drakari infantry unit from your army disembarks from a transport that made a normal move, target that infantry unit. Effect until the end of turn, your unit is eligible to declare a charge. Welcome back, Incubi.
All right, then.
So a Drakari boat can move 12 inches. The unit can get out 3, and it can charge. That's effectively 15 inches plus a charge. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Skyborn Annihilation. This one is a battle tactic, and it's 1 CP. When your shooting phase, target 1 Drakari unit from your army that disembarked from a transport this turn and has not been selected to shoot this phase. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Sustained Hits 1 ability or Sustained Hits 2 ability instead if it is a Cavalite Warriors unit. So 1 CP Sustained Hits.
Mm-hmm.
Seems okay. Next, we have Wraith-like Retreat. Strategic Ploy. 1 CP. When into the fight phase, target 1 Drakari infantry unit from your army that fought that phase.
Is it going to get back in the book?
Yes. Your unit can make a normal move or fallback move, but unless it is Witch's unit, it must end that move wholly within 3 inches horizontally and 5 inches vertically of a friendly Drakari transport and must embark within that transport at the end of that move. So this is really good in my opinion.
So, is that everything?
No, we have 2 more.
Stratagems?
Yeah, you have 6. But that stratagem, I think of a lot of movement, shenanigans, gameplay situations that you could use that for. You could use it in your turn, whacking something, then jumping back into transport. You could use it in your opponent's turn because it's not locked to a specific turn. It's just into the fight phase. To get out of dodge, jump into transport, and then go charge something else. Seems like a pretty good strat.
Right.
Next, we have Swooping Mockery. This is not a battle tactic. It is 1 CP. When your opponent's move phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move, 1 Drakari transport from your army that is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units and is within 9 inches of the enemy unit that just ended that move. Your transport can make a normal move of up to 6 inches.
Okay. Nothing
So,
crazy.
You're trying to charge a transport, it can run away. Solid. Next, we have Night Shield, not a battle tactic, and 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, 1 Drakari vehicle unit from your army that was selected as the target of 1 or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, your unit has a 4+ invulnerable save. So 1 CP, 4 up invuln on the vehicle.
Okay, cool.
Seems pretty solid.
So, first impressions. Now, so I'm going to tell you, neither one of us are super well versed on Drukari. So if there is a character that I'm missing that you can spam that allows you to duplicate a stratagem, I do think that this is a better detachment, but I don't believe this is going to change Drukari very much, as far as making them more competitive, bringing their, you'll see a couple percent probably go up. Here's the problem. So everything that was good that you just read is completely tied to disembarking from a transport. And while there is one stratagem that allows you to do it in your turn, get back in, you basically are condemning your army to be good half of the game, because they have to get out to access their stratagems. They have to get out to access their buffs. And other than that, you're just playing Drukari without the benefits from the other detachments, pain token stuff, you know? The other problem with it is, yet again, because everything is tied to getting out of a transport, Ravagers are toughness 9. The regular boats are toughness 8. You're talking about putting 6 ships on the table that regular shit is just going to remove. And I say that because I would get shot by ships, be like, okay, that hurt pretty bad, and then remove them from the table next turn so they can't do it again. And unfortunately, that means that if I was going into this detachment and I decided, okay, I can just make none of your shit work if I just kill these boats now, you're dead in the water. And I think that that is the main problem with it, is that with everything being so dependent on disembarking, by my understanding, losing the ship is going to fuck your life up really bad. And then the other thing is, like I said, without being able to duplicate the stratagem multiple times over the army, you're going to see an army that just got points cuts, where at best a very select few units from your army with heavy command point investment are going to be able to really access these rules to their potential. Otherwise, you're going to see everything stand around, and 2 turns out of the game, you can probably expect to access these rules to what they're capable of. And I think that that is a little bit not of an oversight, because I do think it's better than the other detachment, but I'm impressed by the rules in a vacuum, but every time you say, when this model disembarks from a transport, I think about disembarking, standing there like an asshole, and the other thing, the boats are toughness 8. And every time you say that, it kind of makes me wince a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think this is a good quality of life change for Drukari players, but at the end of the day, I don't think it will push them even into the crew mid tier. I think when they get to top tables at tournaments and play good opponents and good armies, they will still get curb stomped.
Absolutely. That's exactly where my head is at. Anybody that's reading all that, listening to what the rules do and not how they activate, is not understanding. Look, y'all, this is not what we needed to push Drukari to a 50% win rate. Because when you've got a transport that's toughness 8 and 10 wounds, my 90-point broadside can remove you from the table in 1 turn. And yes, now you have a rotate ion shield, which makes up for the fact that it's only got a 6-up invulnerable save, but that doesn't save you from dev wounds. It doesn't save you from guns that are flat 12 damage if something goes through. And it's just, when you're talking about, if you wanted to play this list to its potential, its maximum potential, you're looking at spending 600 points on transports just so that you can spend command points to make the shit that was in the transports worth running. And I think that, it's going to be devastating losing that roll off for first turn and seeing 3 of your vehicles against some armies just die. And there it is. I hope it wasn't the ones with your good units in it. I hope it wasn't the ones you were planning on, winning the game with, because those 3 units just tied themselves to 5 combat rounds of not being able to access these abilities. And gotta be honest, was excited when you said new detachment, but I was more excited when you were just reading Real Space Raiders.
Yeah, yeah. It also, like, the 4-up emblem strat is locked to the shooting phase. So, like, I think melee armies will just absolutely run through this. Like, World Eaters, Custodes, Black Templars, it's over. Let's go home.
Let's just be real. Just bringing up melee as an example, you didn't even have to bring up that point that it's shooting only. My first thing in my head when I'm talking about losing that roll off for first turn is, son, watch Agron jump this table and make this fucking detachment a joke.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, you think you got a new detachment? Well, here's Agron.
Watch Agron engage 3 of these ships and kill him by himself, and then all of your shit is now, are we engaged with Agron now? That's not good.
Yeah, that's not where we want to be.
And then when the 3 Lords of Skulls move up the table, it's over.
Yeah, watch them out.
But yeah, that's I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to be optimistic and say I think it's better than Real Space Raiders. But in its defense, Real Space Raiders was a low bar. A detachment that just
very low
is very low bar, and this is, this is the skinny white kid at PE, like, stretching his neck to put his chin above the bar, but it is up there.
Yeah, it technically made it, but did it count? Debatable. Yeah. Overall, I think Drakari is still towards the bottom army.
Which is such a shame. How do you put in so much work and fumble it? Fumble it at the 5-yard line. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, old James. He dropped the bag on that one.
That was a football reference for you, Cody.
Yeah, man. Ready for the Super Bowl? 2 weeks. Anyways, now we will go to the points. So we will literally just do these in order.
Mm-hmm.
So starting with Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle.
The Adeptus Sororitas, because all of mine have sombrero.
So, basically, Arco Flagellants went up. They were one of the most popular units in meta lists. I'm not quite sure exactly how much they went up. I would guess about 10 to 15. But they went up slightly, not much.
Right.
The Exorcist went up, which is the indirect tank for Sisters. I believe it went up 20 points, which I think it was fine the way it was.
Well, I think we're the same. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that indirect tank was matching the points on the Mana Core, which is the one for Astra, and I believe they're both now 180, so they probably went up by the same amount.
Yeah, so I mean, the Exorcist, it was kind of like the Whirlwind, like if it's there, it's annoying, but it's not like game breaking annoying.
Right.
Morven Vol also took a hit, but she was kind of counteracted because the Paragon Warsuits that she generally goes with went down, so I think it's about a net even there. Dominion Squad went down, I believe, 1 point per model, down to 110.
Right.
Which for those
characters and their units swapping points like that is going to be a really common trend here for the record.
Yeah, for sure. GW could have just saved it all the time. Repentia squads went down. They still suck, so whatever. Retributor squads went down. I think these are actually a really good unit. So nice to see them go down. They'll definitely see play. Adeptus Succatus. Good one, Clay.
Thank God.
And Zephyrum went down. Yeah, they're fine. Whatever. So overall, I think it was pretty much a net even on sisters. I don't think you'll really see the triple exorcist builds anymore. But other than that, I think it's about the same.
Right. And that's you're going to see that with probably half of these, where you can tell that GW just wanted to look like they were doing more than they are. Most of these armies are almost completely unaffected, and they put some red marks on stuff to make people happy, and then put green stuff that, like, basically everything that people didn't like went up in points, and then they decreased the points on everything else so that your army wouldn't change. So it's like, what the fuck was the point? Leave everything how it was.
100% agree. Magnus does not need a buff. Yeah. I think, we'll get to Thousand Suns when we get to him.
No, I agree. Magnus does need a buff since he doesn't one-shot anything.
Yeah, he doesn't one-shot the Night Rider, that's for sure.
Not damn.
Anyways, next we have Adeptus Custodes. This is one of the armies that I'm most excited about. Personally, I will be putting them on the table today. Very excited about them. I think that everybody take a shot because Magnus couldn't one-shot something. So Alaris Custodians went down, I believe, roughly 10 to 15 points a model. Custodian Guard went down, I believe, 20 points for 4. Wardens went down they went down 20 also. They were 270 for 5. They're now 250. The bikes went down. Can the bikes see play? We'll see. They're now 75 points a model. The captain is 140. But the meat and potatoes is the Custodian Guard and the Custodian Wardens. They both went down. They got a huge rules buff with the devastating rule wounds change, and I'm excited for Custody.
So, just by giving Custodians their ability back with the Feel No Pain, I don't think, with just that, I don't think that they were going to run tables like they were before, being the only champion of, we can go up against Eldar. Try me. But with the points drops as well, a lot of top 5 placements wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think that there is a very strong possibility I'll be taking Custodies to Cherokee Open at the end of the month. So, I'm pretty high on them. I think they are one of my 3, or they're one of my 2 biggest, well, one of my 3 biggest winners in the data slate. And Clay, so they made a change to where Custodians 4-up Feel No Pain against Mortals also applies to Death Wounds. Massive change for them. Next we have Adeptus Mechanicus. They just got a codex.
Real quick question, because I might have missed it. It still works on mortal wounds, right?
Yes, it applies to mortal wounds and death wounds now. So absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Clay, you ready to face 30 Custodians? Because we'll line it up this weekend. I don't think they're broken, Clay. I do think they are very damn good. Adeptus Mechanicus just got a new codex. They did not change. Titanicus, who cares? Aeldari. So I expected to see more red here. I don't know about everybody else, but they hit the Wraith Guard and they hit the Night Spinner. But where they got Aeldari was the rules, like we talked about earlier.
Right. And one
Um,
with that, the way that they are,
what was that?
100% happy with changing the rules versus the points because they tried changing the points, and you know, there they were,
Yeah,
55%.
yeah, yeah. So I've seen so many people complaining that Eldari didn't get hit hard, and I think these people don't realize just the fundamental changes that GW gave them via the actual data slate. So
Well, so
I'm happy with where they're at.
GW took 100 points from their list by making making Uldrad a must take. Just for the record, 100-point nerf there, folks. Don't forget about it.
110.
And even with that, they've just lost 6 fate dice. Let's not
Yeah.
pretend that that's a small thing.
No, not at all. Yeah, not at all. Yep. So, Agents of the
Cody, did you
Imperium.
die?
No. So, Agents of the Imperium. The only
Hello?
one I can you hear me? Tony. You good, Tony? You there, Tony?
Yeah, I'm there. I couldn't
Okay.
hear you. I reset everything.
Okay. Cool. You good then?
Yeah. Agents of the Imperium is the
Agents
same.
of the Imperium. Well, so the only I want to talk about it for just a second. I anticipated the Caldus assassin to go up. She did not. So good for me.
You know, they had to give you something there for those Black Templars. They couldn't all collect dust.
Yeah.
But
Astra
like I said,
Militarum.
right, like I said, with Astra, I want to say the Mana Core. What the hell? I want to say it was like 165 off the top of my head. No, it was actually 150. But like I said, that one and the indirect for Sororitas both went up to 180. So
Yeah.
I don't think that, like you said, that the Mana Core was much other than a little pest that you basically just sat there and got shot at by every turn, and now it's just going to be a 30-point penalty for being an asshole. But nothing crazy.
Yeah. I personally think the Mana Core was more scary than the Sisters Exorcist, but I'm happy to see indirect go up. Not gonna complain. Um, yeah, that was the only change to the Astra Militarum. Black Templars.
More like
So
blacklist.
whatever. So this has been my army of 10th edition. Honestly, didn't get much change to their actual units. They got hit more by the overall Space Marine nerf.
Well,
What was that?
let's be real, man. You gained like 50 points off there just off Grimaldus and Hellbrick.
Yeah, well, I personally wasn't running Grimaldus. I know he's a very high in the meta model, but I wasn't running him. So that didn't really affect me. I did, however, gain 25 off of the High Marshal, which I would gladly pay 120 for him. I'm fine. Crusader squads weren't really being ran. The only reason Crusader squads were being ran was to spam them in Iron Hands. So that, I guess, fixed that, whatever. The Primaris ones that were actually good in Templars are stayed the same points, as did Sword Brethren. So I'm not going to complain.
So now, let's just go ahead and say it. Whichever GW employee that was responsible for Blood Angels was sleeping on the job again and needs to be fired. Because why? Someone tell me why Sanguinary Guard is still 350 points.
Yeah, here they are. Sanguinary Guard, 350. Glad,
Chain.
honestly, I hate that Sanguinary Guard are one of my favorite models in the game. And so, yeah, I don't know what the person at GW has against Sanguinary Guard. I think they still have like flashback horrors of Jack Carpenter dominating LVO with them. But yeah,
That or
last year, but
I kind of figured they were just struggling to keep gold paint in stock.
maybe they're about to really have a problem with that with these custodians, though.
So now this is one of the ones I've been waiting for. So
Yeah,
while most of these changes are like small and not really dramatic, as a whole, there are some huge what the fuck moments with this Chaos Demons thing, and I'm going to tell you. So there is a reason for it, as in you can't bring this without bringing X, Y, or Z. However, there are some things in here that I was completely dumbfounded by. Why did a Keeper of Secrets go down 40 points? Why is a Great Unclean One and the named Great Unclean One 230 points? What the hell? And so, what across the board, the only thing that's gone up is the Blue Scribes, I think, went from 65 to 75 off the top of my head, and Nurglings are now 40 points for 3, which isn't going to make or break anybody's list. Most people
take them.
Right. Most people are probably sitting around with enough points to spare that they updated their app this morning and didn't notice there was a balanced data slate if they didn't read it online. As far as demons and running them as allies. But, you're looking at everything. You're looking at more than 50% of this list of models has come down. And it is crazy to me, some of the decisions that they made, particularly with the greater demons. The Keeper of Secrets, Kairos Fate Weaver, Great Unclean One, all of that stuff coming down, and not by small amounts. We're not talking about a 10-point, 5-point tweak. We're talking about 30 and 40-point tweaks on a list that was already like oppressively monstrous for the amount of reward you got for taking one of these off the table. I've personally watched a Great Unclean One stand with a 4-up, and toughness 12 for, I think he was like 260 points, and was like, holy shit, removing this guy was not worth what it takes to do it. And they've just made that problem even worse. Everything has gone down. And while the army rule itself is going to deter like the Monster Mash list, a lot of these units are just cheap enough that it's like, will it though?
No, it will not deter. First off, real quick, Hellbrick one-shot the Great Unclean One. Just gonna say that. But no, it will not.
Didn't one-shot him. We've already been over this.
No, he did. Hellbrick did.
Doesn't deal 20 wounds with one attack.
One phase is a one-shot.
Anyway. Thank you.
I don't think those changes will keep people from running the Monster Mash. All that will keep is people from spamming flamers and whatnot, like you were saying earlier.
Correct. And so what I think it's going to end up with is, I think the Chaos Demons just got a lot stronger, because essentially you've given them screen that they have to take, which sounds like a nerf. But then you said, well, we'll make it fair to you by making the screen cheaper and making the model that you want to take significantly cheaper. So I'm just seeing them putting a lot more on the table, to where it's like, great, now these demons that I couldn't kill before are surrounded by fucking 60 models that are holding. Now they don't even have to stand on the objectives anymore. Thank you, Games Workshop, you fucking assholes. God damn it. This was a list I really struggled with, and when I pulled this up, I literally swear to you, I'm on the phone with everybody talking about this when it came out, And when I read this, I refreshed the page and I was like, is this correct? And there it was. And
the only thing, the only saving grace is Shalaxy stayed 450.
No, it's not a saving grace that she stayed the same. It's if she would have gone down in points, I would have driven to GW. I would have flown to GW headquarters. I would have found the guy responsible, and I would have kicked his ass. And I'm definitely, at least for me, next to Custodes, I'm calling Chaos Demons a glow up. Frankly, I think all around the army's going to do better than it was. That's my opinion. I think they're about to sit pretty well on the top of whatever armies were above them before. I'm definitely seeing them past 50%. Easy.
Completely agree.
And they're going to.
And there's going to be some. Sorry to cut you off. I think there's going to be some unique builds with Chaos Demons now. I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the corn stuff went down. So I've already seen people talking about is mono corn on the table, and a lot of people seem to think it is.
Well, so for me, that was the only thing that I was kind of like, I looked at it and I was like, huh? Because the Bloodthirster stayed at 320, and I just feel like that out of the three, I saw the Bloodthirster the least, just because for the points, what he does is nowhere near as strong as either putting the Keeper of Secrets on the table, or the Great Unclean One was just already so much less expensive that if you wanted a midfield bully, let's just have this guy stand there and be an asshole. So I was a little surprised that they modified all of that. And like you said, points drops for corn, but the Bloodthirster's still sitting at 320. And I'm not saying that the Bloodthirster needed to come down in points. I don't think any of this shit needed to come down in points. I think they should have reduced the points for the infantry and left the big guys alone. But here we are. And I just thought that that one for me was a little bit of an oddball decision. It's like, let's reduce all the greater demons in points. And then he's standing there at the same. So I was like, okay, not really sure what battles you're trying to fight here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Clay, I'll send you my win percentage against Chaos Knights later. I agree though. Chaos Demons, big glow up. The next one you are super excited about, Chaos Knights.
Oof. Chaos Knights are in. Chaos Knights are in, baby. So in the wake of Chaos Space Marines, we traded one army sitting at the top echelon of the game. So I really genuinely believe that Chaos Demons and Chaos Knights are both about to sit on top, past 53% at this stuff, talking about top 10s, because Chaos Knights are just the points cuts for Knights in general you're going to see were really good, but oh my god, Chaos Knights were already played, basically better and more than Imperial Knights as they were, because they were so much cheaper. And now, just some highlights. You got the War Dog Executioner going down to 140. That's pretty cool. You've got the entire Cerastus line is now 435. Anyone you want to take. 435 points for a Chaos Knight Lancer is insane. It is insane. You can put 3 of them on the table and, only be sitting at 60% of your list. And I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying that I will, but it's everything. The Abominant sitting at 400 points. He ties in really well with the army rule, and I think that that's incredibly good. The Knight Despoiler with 2 rapid fire battle cannons is now 440 points. And, Tyrant's still 510, and I really just don't think that largest class of Knight behind the Forge Worlds is going to see a lot, just because I know with you, Cody, your biggest problem with knights as a general rule of thumb is just that if you can kill them, it's the largest point penalty that you can take to just remove one of these. Talking about greater demons, great, you killed a great unclean one. Oh, there went 230 points. I hope the other 80% of my army doesn't do anything about this. Whereas with knights, it's always been more of a devastating blow. And just, I think that's really, for me, really exemplified in that largest class of knight being a quarter of your list, and really the benefits that you get from it. I'm not saying obviously the guns are good. The guns are better, like cool. But the real benefit that you're getting from them is the 2-up armor and the toughness 13. And I just don't think it's enough, because if the opponent wants to dedicate it, if the opponent wants to remove it from the table, bye, basically. And with 24 wounds, just as an example, the Lancer's got 25 and a 4-up invuln. You're still walking around with a 5-up invuln saying against ranged attacks. And it's just, for me, Chaos Knights are super cheap. I still think 500 is a little much for the weapon platform. Stand there and blow shit up. But, if I was going to take something that was that expensive, hell, the Porphyrion is down at 700 points and is. I'm not by any means saying take a Porphyrion because it's better than the Tyrant. I'm just saying, when you're talking about throwing points on the table, let's throw some real points on the table. Yeah, I just don't see the Tyrant, in my opinion, seeing much play. And I really think that the biggest upset as far as the competitive game is the Chaos Knight Lancer is easily the best unit in this army right now. I genuinely, when I say that I would take 3, I'm telling you, tomorrow, when we go test out this data slate, we're running 3. We're running 3. We've got 4 armigers. We've got enhancements. It is so good for 435 points that if you're playing Chaos Knights right now and you have not bought a Lancer, or you do not have a Lancer, order one tonight, because it was already hard enough to get one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Chaos Knights definitely got to go up. I still am of the opinion that armies that can deal with them will deal with them, and they're still going to struggle in that sense. But you're definitely going to see some tournament wins out of them. That's for sure.
Right. My last thing, as far as, and I'm not just going to sit here and jack off the Lancer all evening, but it's just, in my opinion, with the way the army works, I've always thought that a really strong melee front is the key to playing Chaos Knights effectively. I think getting your models into engagement range and holding the line so that basically you just pot shot from the other side of the table with what's left is the ticket. The -1 to hit, if you can get this stuff in your aura and keep it there, the +1 to wound that your whole army gets from things being in your aura and staying there has always looked to me as a really strong melee front line in this army that was tough enough to stay there is going to be huge. And I'm telling you, the Lancer is the golden child answer to that. And sideways deployment, if you're fighting Chaos Knights and they've got a Lancer, I'm calling GG. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because turn 1, everything he's got is coming into you. And there's not going to be a lot of answer for it. And for how hard it is to take a Lancer off the table, with Feel No Pains from the stratagem, with the -1, when you've got it, obviously, with the 4-up, with the toughness 12, with the 25 wounds, it just blows my mind that he even went down there. He's cheaper than a Knight. He's cheaper than a Knight Despoiler. He is cheaper than the Chaos Knight version of a Crusader. And that, to me, is mind-boggling, because I think for like Imperial Knights, just as an example, I think an Imperial Knight Lancer, I want to say it was 510 points. and it was being run in armies that weren't even knights. I was watching battle reports where they were using an Adeptus Mechanicus and stuff like that. I'm sorry, it's 495. And so being able to put a Lancer on the table for 435 points is, to me, why I'm going to say right now, is why Chaos, if you're playing Knights, it needs to be Chaos Knights. Period.
Yeah, well said. I know you've already sold Joey. He's bought a couple. I see Clay in the chat talking about he's ordering one right now after your passionate speech.
Joey is literally made of money.
Next on the agenda, Chaos Space Marines. How the mighty have fallen. So basically, copy and paste anything that was in a meta list into this, and yes, it's in red now. Accursed Cultist up, I believe, 10 points. Chaos Lord up 15. Chosen up, I believe, 20, I believe. I think they're 110. Dark Commune up. Warp Talons up. Obliterators up. Forge Fiend up. Forge Fiend,
I don't know what the Eye of Tzeentch is, but for the record, the Eye of Tzeentch enhancement also went to 40 points, which sounds really high for an enhancement that's not an Imperial Knights.
Yeah, so from my I'm not even sure what it does. From my understanding, though, it was something you didn't take anyways, so whatever.
But glow up. Now you can take 4 Lords of Skulls in Chaos Space Marines.
Get out.
Just saying.
For reference on this, though, yes, we will be getting the NIDS. For reference on this, Chaos Space Marines, I have a good friend who is a very high-level player, and his main army is Chaos Space Marines. His Chaos Space Marines tournament list went up 200 points on the nose. So, yeah, that hurts. I think you don't really need to say anything else on that.
Like, welcome to the grave. We'll put you right next to Aeldari.
Literally, I think Aeldari and Chaos Space Marines are effectively dead.
They executed them. They essentially, I see this as the beginning of season 2 of 10th edition Warhammer. I mean, and they bookended this season by saying, whatever you were running before, no, we're just not going to see it at the top anymore, because I'm tired of looking at it at the top, and there it went.
Yeah, I mean, it was LVO was a fitting in which the finals consisted of the meta Aeldari list, and hey, they lost. Good on them. Next is Dark Angels. We're gonna just skip this because these are fake points. Don't know why GW even did it.
What do you mean?
So these points have units that literally, when this codex releases Saturday, are not even in the codex. So these are not accurate points. I literally have no explanation as to why GW even added this in.
So basically, if you're playing a tournament this Saturday and the cutoff time for points updates was right now, enjoy Dark Weekend. Yeah. You're going to have a great tournament. Under any other circumstances, sorry.
Yeah, this is literally useless. Death Guard. So, Plague Marines, Plague Burst Crawlers. So, Plague Burst Crawlers took the obligatory indirect nerf and went to 180. It feels like GW just was like, all right, it's indirect, put it at 180.
Well, it was late on the draw. That's exactly how it feels, but I definitely think I'm okay with that.
Me too. Plague Marines went up, I believe, 2 points a model, roughly. I think you will still see probably 30 in every competitive Death Guard list. They're still really good. Death Shroud Terminators went down.
Dude, the Death Shroud Terminators, Toughness 6 Terminators that went from 250 to 2. It's not like they got a huge buff, but toughness 6 Terminators going down in points. Great,
well,
cool.
Toughness 6 Terminators that absolutely clap cheeks in melee and shooting. Yeah, they need to go
The
down.
thing is that Death Guard is just another example of. It's another example of they wanted to put colors on the sheet because they realized too many of them were just gray. So plague greens went up a very minuscule amount, and to make up for that, Death Shroud Terminators went down a very minuscule amount. Don't expect your lists to change. The only thing that has hurt you is the only thing even worth talking about is that the Plague Bridge Crawler is 180.
Yeah, one other thing to talk about with Death Guard that's going to hurt them is, I'll scroll back up. The War Dog Brigands was a very popular take in Death Guard. They went up to 170, so that's going to hurt. I believe they went up 20 points.
Right, and I think the thing for that is just because they were such an easy stick anywhere when you hit on 2s. I've seen them run in every Chaos faction at some point.
Yeah, they're so that's a bit of a, the meta Death Guard list did take a little bit of a hit. Nerdlings also went up, so but overall I think they'll be fine. Death Watch, they changed nothing. They effectively, threw a bird finger to the Death Watch players.
Right.
Drakari, we've already spent a lot of time talking about them. They got some points cuts. I don't.
With the only thing I'm going to say, just talking from the new detachment, you're seeing some character points cuts. I think Grotesques getting a points cut is cool. It's not by much, but Grotesques are a really good unit. I think they're really good. The Ravager
Raiders went down 2.
Right.
Or the Raiders went down 10.
I was a little surprised that the Ravager stayed at 115. Not because it needed to come down in points, but all things considered, if you wanted to build an attachment around transports, I was expecting all the transports to come down. But on the plus side, Raiders came down 10 points a model. So if you were running 6 of them, you've saved 60 points, which is notable.
Yeah, for sure. That's an extra unit. Next we have Genestealer Cults. 1 unit dropped. Honest to God, I don't. Pure Strains, I don't think we're in the meta anyways. So whatever. I think that was another one where GW just wanted to see color.
Exactly right. And
Grey Knight.
Grey Knights is literally. Okay. Grey Knights is literally. I already think that just making the Dread Knight better was good for them. I would have, I don't think a point cut here and there would have necessarily hurt, just because, yet again, their struggle is with lethality, and unfortunately, you've made the Dread Knight the only particularly lethal unit. And then for some reason, the only thing that has changed here is the Brotherhood Librarian went from 100 to 110. Okay.
Well, yeah, people that were running the Librarian bombs are still going to run them, so whatever.
It's like, yet again, a 10-point increase has affected nobody's list, because most people are sitting around with 20 points, 25 points to spare. So you have an
enhancement. You're good. Imperial Knights. We've already spent a lot of time talking about Knights, but they did get a ton of points drops. Do you want to talk about them a little more? Or?
So I'm going to say seeing Canis Rex go back down to 435 is probably my biggest thing here. Obviously, Armigers, the Helverins are back to 140. Cool. Great. I think Canis Rex at 435. Awesome. That's it. That's never saw a reason for him to go to more than that. But I think the Errant at 405 again I still think the Errant is a really good unit. Joey's going to argue with me on that all day, but it is what it is. But as a broad stroke, you went to running, instead of 2 large knights and 4 Armigers, you'll probably get a third one in there, which isn't minuscule. I'm sorry, 3 Armigers. But I think Chaos Knights is the way to go. I just don't think that Imperial Knights is good. I don't think this is going to change anything, and I don't think that Knights are back. I think putting Imperial Knights on the table is setting yourself up for failure. Now, with everything that's changed, it's a really good-looking failure, and it's a really thematic failure, but you're still setting yourself up for failure. With the inverse being, by putting a couple spikes on the same models, you get access to the polar opposite, which is I really think the Chaos Knights are at the top of the game, and I think that they're the way to go, and that's really all I've got to say about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Canis Rex at 435 is appealing to like spice into some Imperial armies, i.e., Sisters or Custodes. May look at that. Leagues of Votan. Basically, Thunderkin weren't in any meta list. Not sure why they went up. Hearthguard and Sagittars, however, were in every competitive list and were quite spammed. So I can definitely see why they went up. I don't think you'll see the 6 Sagittars anymore. But overall, I think Votan is still, fine. They're what they are.
And Necrons has stayed the same. And while we would just skip it, I did want to say that I was a little surprised that they stayed the same. I was really expecting, at the very least, I thought Wraiths were going to go up.
Yeah, so this brings me to my biggest winner of this data slate. I think Necrons are about to catapult to the top of the meta. If you look at raw stats, they were already, since their codex released, the number 1 win percentage army at the tournament's 5 rounds or more with 32 plus players.
I thought they won LVO.
They did win LVO. So we delayed this data slate a week to take LVO into account and then didn't adjust the army that won it. Makes sense. But yeah, I think Necrons are they're gonna turn into the undisputed top army in the meta.
Well, and it's one of those things where Necrons have skated by, and not because they were necessarily an unstoppable force, but they literally outlived the armies that could give them any amount of competition. They're now the only one that's left, which makes them the best army.
Yeah, literally, they were the number 3 army in the game, arguably. Right. Based on metrics, they could have been, higher. And the top 2 got put in the graveyard, and they didn't get touched. So
just for the record, Cody and I are pretty much in agreement here. Necrons is your new top army of the game. From 100%. Day one of this change, Necrons top army. Period.
100%. Yeah. Orcs. So, talking with Ryan and just listening to some other people, Knobs got hit, I believe, 10, maybe 20 points per unit of 5. Knobs were one of the best units in the Orcs Index, so that's understandable. But a lot of non-meta things went down. Right. I know Ryan is super excited about kill rigs at 170 points because that just seems criminally cheap.
Right, and it's all vehicles for the most part. Like a significant portion of the vehicles they're mainly everything that's come down, with the exception being, trucks went up, but I think they went from 55 to 65.
Yeah, I mean there's still a 65
right.
point transport.
It's a truck. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a 65 point transport with a 6-up invuln. They're fine. Squig Hogs also went up. I don't think they went up a drastic amount, but they went up enough to where you may not see 18 in the list, which is good in my opinion. I personally hate them.
I think they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they're a tough cookie to deal with.
The only thing I would say is Squig Hog Boys went up, but Wraiths didn't, and that's the only comment I'm going to make.
Yeah, that's all that needs to be said. So Space Marines.
Just say it. I
So
want to hear you say the words. Say it.
this one kind of hurt, and we can, honest to God, we can thank John Lennon for this. The aggressors went up 10 points per 3. It, it's not a major nerf. I personally won't be running them in my Templar list anymore. I think the only way you really run them anymore is with Marnius Calgar, who did not go up in points. So, whatever. All of the base infantry went down. Assault intercessors went down 5 points, and regular intercessors went down 5. Infernus Marines went down 5. Heavy intercessors went down, I believe, 10. Who cares? Nobody was taking them. Outriders went down, I believe, 10 to 5 points. Once again, nobody was taking them. Nobody cares. Inceptors, Clay's favorite unit in the game, went up 20 points per 3.
Which
That hurt.
hurt.
Yeah, honest to God, I'm messing with lists today. I still put 9 Inceptors in my list. It just is what it is. They're that good. You just pay for it. Centurion Devastators. This one you can really thank John Lennon for, because they were in literally no list but his. And they went up, I believe, 20 points per 6. So, yeah, that's a rough one. Other than that, we have the, because it was a Tuesday, nerf on the Redemptor Dreadnought that hurt no one. This model, like, everybody tells me how good it's supposed to be, and it is good on paper, and then you put it on the table and it just kills nothing. And yeah, I don't understand why it went up. I thought it would go down and had already been kind of list building with that in mind, and then it went up, so I just immediately deleted it from every list I built.
Well, I mean, I guess GW must have agreed with you or something and was like, shut up, he sucks.
Yeah, literally. Robust girly man broke my heart. I was hoping he would land a little closer to 300. He instead got a massive 10-point cut.
Thank you.
So he will remain on the shelf. But don't worry, Tony. They dropped Stern Guard veterans by 10 points, and they're still probably the worst unit in the Space Marine Codex.
Are you going to take more of them now?
No.
Yeah.
However, my whirlwinds will be going in a box.
In a staple of this entire data slate, if you have indirect fire and you are a tank, you are now 180 points.
For 180 points. The whirlwinds were one of the most frustratingly inconsistent units in Space Marines. I won a RTT with them. I took 3 whirlwinds, went 3-0. But other games, they have just underwhelmed so much. Even playing against them, they've always underwhelmed. And so to see them at 180, they are, you will never see another one on the table. So I believe that was all of the Space Marine.
And that's all of the rest of Space Marines, because Games Workshop has looked at Space Wolves and is so adamant that this army is fine for no fucking reason that 0 points changes have been made. So if you're a Space Wolf player and you were saying things are going to get better, there's a balanced data slate next week, you have been fucking lied to. Enjoy another 6 months of either not playing Space Wolves or wishing you had never bought Space Wolves. Have fun.
Yeah, so my best friend, Grant, obviously plays Space Wolves. He is a Space Wolf purist. And he texted me today saying that this was one of the worst days of his life.
I know, because he was like, and the reason why I bring that up is because when we were playing, he said, well, on the plus side, the balanced data slate is next week. And he was the one that said that. He was the guy. And
Yeah. So and the bad part is the one like quote unquote competitive piece of his list was a aggressor unit. It went up. So like, what can you say?
it's like technically Grant Space Wolves have been nerfed, so there's justice in the world.
Oh, I felt bad for him. When I
Yeah.
saw this page and saw no green, I was like, "Oh God, it's gonna be a rough day for him."
Drukari's over here like, look at my new detachment.
Yeah,
And Space Wolves is the dog meme. He's like, this is fine.
yeah, literally, the dog meme. I do hold out hope that Space Wolves will be the next army that GW kind of completely redoes. But we
I feel
saw
like
how
it's
that
going to be
went
too
towards
little
start.
too late. I
Yeah,
think better would be a early year 2 codex. I think when we get through all these codexes, I think if Space Wolves were just one of the first 3 to come out in year 2, I think that would be
they
better.
they haven't technically announced the roadmap for the fall, so put them this year. Yeah, throw them a bone.
I was kind of considering fall to be year 2 because we kind of started halfway through the year.
Sure, sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely need to be one of those. Otherwise, they need massive help ASAP.
I think if they were to give them massive help at this point, it would be, I'm just looking at Grant and thinking, this man played this army for a fucking year like this. You gave him help, and now the codex is in 3 months.
Yeah, I beat him so badly the last time we played that he has resigned himself to only playing Champions of Rust and at least, you know, being a purist because that's the only thing he's got going for him.
Well, let's just say it like it is. The man is dedicated to playing the worst army in this game right now, so they may as well be the worst army in this game right now.
For sure. For sure.
I heard Cat laugh in the background.
So next we have
Tau Empire.
the Tau Empire.
Is still Tau Empire. Shocker. So what I'm going to say is Crisis Suits went up to 200. I was a little surprised. I think I pretty much told everybody they were going to go back to 195. So while I'm surprised that they went to 200, it's not like I was like, oh my God, they're 200. Nothing has changed. The list you were running, you're still going to run. What was strange to me is in data slate from GW on this glorious day fashion, characters have gone down that will lead Crisis Suits. So for me, when you're running 3 Crisis Commanders in Crisis Battle Suits, my list has remained unchanged. My list will stay unchanged. The Enforcer it's another, too little too late, especially when you talk about the fact that a Crisis Commander just went down to 80 points, whereas the Cold Star is 110. I really think that just makes the Crisis Commander even more competitive than he already was, because you're now paying 120 points more for your Crisis Suits by running the Cold Star Commander than you were a day ago.
Yeah, I think one change that we could potentially see jump into the meta is Triptides.
So I'm gonna finish with the Enforcer Commander by saying the best. I really just don't understand why he started as, I believe, the most expensive, and now he sits at the middle. When for what he does and what he is, I would run him if he was the cheapest. If they would have put the Enforcer at 70 points, I would have given him a try. But putting Armor of Contempt on Crisis Suits is utile when you choose to not take the invuln save. And I just don't believe that for the points that he's at, I would still even try it.
Yeah, I think you'd just rather have the invuln.
I agree. It's like the benefit is the Enforcer exists to make it viable to take a 4th gun. And why? Do you need it? Maybe if you're running plasmas, but I just don't see it myself. And I'm going to continue to not see it because the Enforcer is still sitting on the shelf where he looks cool for 90 points, but 90 points on the shelf, he will stay. And as far as the Riptide, does GW need me to send them a box of Scott Bright pads or something? Because the amount of material they've gone through trying to polish this turd is just astounding to me. We just saw that they're completely capable and completely willing to modify a data sheet of a model that is not good and with the Grey Knights, and the Riptide has stayed a model that is not good, going down 15 points and being cheaper than a Ghost Keel and cheaper than Crisis Suits were does not make me want to take it. What it makes me think is the same as when it went down to 180 points, which was the biggest points decrease it has gotten. The Riptide is going to be used by 4 people one time at a tournament. They're going to bring several of them, realize that even though it's 160 points, it's still not good, and that's 160 points you could spend elsewhere, and it will go back to not being played after the first 4 to 6 weeks of this data slate being out. Because what I'm thinking when we were talking about it earlier, me and Ronnie, is it's not that 160 points for a Riptide isn't great. It's that if I'm going to put a Riptide in a 2,000 point list, it's going to be with the Burst Cannon. It's not going to be with the Ion Accelerator because there isn't enough of a need to kill a fucking Terminator in Tau to warrant it. So now you're talking about putting a 165 point Burst Cannon on the table that makes 12 shots at strength 6, AP 1, damage 2, which, you know, on paper sounds really good when you ignore cover and you can make it hit on 3s. But devastating wounds in a gun like that is irrelevant once per game, just not even worth considering. And with AP1, Space Marines are saving on a 4, so you go through 2 3-ups shooting into Space Marines and you kill 4 models, which means
if they don't armor consume.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like you're dealing with a model that just why Games Workshop is just I guess it's because of the codex, and they threw us one last bone so you can maybe warm his engines up for maybe this codex is going to change things. But the Riptide is a really tanky model for 165 points that will stand there and get shot at. And if you're playing 500 points with him, cool. If you're playing anything else, get him out of your list. 165 points doesn't change anything for me. It's still not going to change anything for me. They could put him at 150 points, and it's not going to change anything for me. If a Riptide went down to 120, I would put 3 of them in my list just because at that point, Games Workshop is so adamant for me to put this model on the table the way it is that I will throw them a bone. But otherwise, irrelevant. I do think that Vespid Stingwings for 65 points kind of interests me. You know, Ronnie was telling me today, well, they were 75 points before. Fair. But out of all the teleport assault abilities in the game, Vespid Stingwings have the worst teleport assault ability in the game. I consider it to be irrelevant. But 65 points to put 20 Cyclic Ion Blaster shots on the table that have the assault keyword, it kind of warmed me up to the idea of running the Stingwings, even though they hit on 4s. Maybe we do put them on the table and just let them get shot at and don't teleport them. You know what I mean? It's cheap enough that it's kind of going down 10 points has crossed the threshold for me where it's like, am I going to buy them before the Codex comes out? Probably not. But if somebody handed me 5 Vespid Stingwings and I had 65 points in my list, I'd be like, yeah, I'll put them on the table.
Yeah, so I got 2 things. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Number 1, Tau is getting a codex next month. That's, we all know that. So this I kind of take with a grain of salt. Number 2, maybe I'm crazy, but a Riptide with a 2-up, 4-up for 165 is enticing. I get where you're coming from the damage output, 100%. But it's to a point now to where I would debate exploring it a little. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think that if you're running Tetras, the same has always been true. If you run Tetras, there is some damage output from the Riptide, but at least for me, you have enough 4-ups sitting around the table that, with your crisis suits, that it just doesn't matter. they're tough enough. And I just don't see the 2-up armor as particularly relevant because when you're shooting into a model with toughness 9, you're not hitting it with less than 2 AP. So just for me, the 2-up armor's never really been relevant. It's just a deterrent. Don't shoot me with an AP 1 gun. Cool. My last thing on Tau is I don't understand why the supremacy armor didn't come down. I don't understand why the storm surge didn't come down. But I'm not so much worried about the storm surge. It was just why is a Castus Knight Porphyrion cheaper than a supremacy armor when the supremacy armor is marginally worse? A very small margin, but marginally worse.
All right, moving on.
Stop fucking laughing at me. I just fucking wanted, I would have run it for 700. Come on.
Thousand Suns did not get changed. I think we've discussed, they could have taken some changes. Not going to spend a lot of time talking about what could have happened, but Terminators obviously should have went down. Some of the characters, the Exalted Sorcerers, could have definitely gone down. It wouldn't have hurt anything. But
typically, Thousand Suns have been nerfed via the blue scribes. Other than that, unchanged.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they got nerfed marginally by the blue scribes, and whatever.
If your list was sitting at 2,000 points, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Next we have the bugs. So this was like a bittersweet one for me. You can tell GW kind of tried, and then they just, yes, it left a bad taste in my mouth. So what they did, they took the 3 best units in the index, the Death Leaper, the Gargoyles, and the Neurolictor, and they increased their points because GW was bullying people, or Tyranids were bullying people, evidently. Yeah. And then they dropped a bunch of models that, still probably won't get played. So the Death Leaper went up 10 points, Gargoyles went up 10 points, Neurolictor went up 15, Pinevores went up 5. Fine. The changes down, Broodlord and Gene Stiller, nobody's running them, they suck. Norn Assimilator and Norn Emissary both went down 15, or the Assimilator went down 20, the Emissary went down 15. I think they get into a range to where they can be taken, and you don't feel bad. They still, just their damage output is so underwhelming for what they, should be. Yeah, they're still a bit high. Definitely could have. I was hopeful for a Norn Emissary at like 250. That would get me excited. 275.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is one of my good matchups. While I don't know a lot about the army itself, other than what I've seen playing against it, to where I don't really have an opinion on the models. What I will say is an opinion on the balance change. I can summarize it just like this, Cody. He summarized the whole points change in the statement, what the fuck is a Toxicrene?
Yeah, so
that's how the whole thing feels like.
Yeah, I was getting there. So Screamer Killers, I think, are a good unit, but for 145, it still seems steep. I would have liked to see them more close to the Carnifex at 125, because at the end of the day, they move 8 inches with no access to advance and charge. So by the time they get there, they just get shot off the board. At least against competent opponents. Now, if they connect, sure, they'll kill something, but nobody good with that base size and an 8-inch move is going to let them touch them. Toxicrines. I'm sorry,
deep
what?
Strike Screamer Killer.
Yeah, you can't deep strike. Strategic reserve, sure. Yeah, and I've been toying with a list where I put Screamer Killers in. I would definitely open to trying them. Let me just say that. However, I just don't think that I don't think GW quite did enough for them. I am excited to try them though. The Toxicrin is still a useless model. If you own one, please just turn it into a Maliceptor. And that's all I'm gonna say.
It's
Trigon,
the whole slate for me was just for Tyranids. You know, obviously, I think that the Tyrannifex was a good change. I think it was a strong change. But as far as the whole rest of the data slate, for me, it was just like, what the hell are these models? I have never heard of these.
Exactly, because they
And
weren't
I'm
being
going to
played.
continue to have never heard of these.
So the Trigon went down 10 points. I personally have ran the Trigon, taking it to tournaments. I think it's a good model. Yeah, Ronnie's upset that you cut me off right when I was getting to the Tyrannifex.
I've done not by accident.
So we'll get to the Tyrannifex. So the Tyrannifex dropped a massive 55 points. I believe it was 245. It is now back into the realm of, I think it is viable. It's another one that I struggle with, kind of like the Streamer Killer. It's just, I don't feel great about it, but I definitely feel a lot better than I did yesterday. It's, it still has its limitations. But personally, it with a flamer is a little more appealing than the big gun. Potentially one of each. Yeah, it's. I think it's fine for 190. It's definitely viable. Like, I'm not gonna. I will no longer shit on Ronnie for taking 2 or 3 of them.
Well, I think for me, for the points that they're at, I put 3 of them in the middle of the table with flamers. That's kind of where I'm at on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I brought up the flamer. I think the flamer is a great gun. At the beginning of 10th, when they were 190 or 200, whatever they were, I ran mine with flamers, and they obliterated Space Marine, and orcs and that kind of stuff. And hey, I took a Tyrannifex at the beginning of 10th to a tournament and went 3-0. So I'm not saying they're bad. I think they're in a lot better space today than they were yesterday. I've been playing with some lists, and I do have 2 Tyrannifex in the list I was building. I don't know that they'll make the final cut, but they are there at the moment. The rest of it, one thing I was extremely disappointed was that Tyrants didn't go down. I feel like Tyrants they break my heart compared to 10th edition, or compared to 9th edition. Their damage output just doesn't exist like it did in 9th, and so I would like to have seen them go down a little. But overall, I think Tyranids are in a better spot than they were yesterday, so I am overall happy about that. I think, but I may
look at this shit. Ronnie says, I'd take them out after last tourney. Now they're back in for me. Ronnie, shut the fuck up. You played 0 games without a Tyrannifex in your list. I don't care if your app said that they weren't in there. Shut the hell up, man. God damn. You played 0 games without it in your list.
Yeah, I think overall, though, I think GW could have done a little more. I think they could have helped some of the models that you just have to take, like a Tyrant, make the list feel a little better, but they didn't. So here we are. Next, we have another army that, as they sit on the table in front of me, World Eaters. So I'm not as harsh on World Eaters as a lot of other people on the internet. I don't think they got just absolutely hammered like a lot of people think they did. For example, my list, which is a copy and paste of Jack Harpster's list that finished second at Tampa Open. It I lost a unit of Chaos Spawn. It is what it is. Like I'm not overly upset about that. I think the biggest hurt for World Eaters was the change to the favorite of corn enhancement.
Right, and I think that's why people are so negative on it. Is it's just corn was not exactly in an oppressive place. I never saw the army as particularly unbalanced or being in need of balance, and yet you not only took a noticeable penalty to your rules, but everything that you're running has taken points increases where it matters. Now, fortunately, Papa G up here taking the Lord of Skulls down to 250. Thank you.
450.
Two of them. God damn it, Cody! If you don't run 2 Lords of Skulls tomorrow, I'm gonna kick your ass.
I will not be running 2 Lords of Skulls tomorrow. Mainly because I will not be running World Eaters tomorrow. It blows my mind that GW thinks they did anybody any favors by dropping World Eater Scorch Fiends. I just look at that and it makes me chuckle. But I mean, literally the best units in the index just Exalted 8 down and regular 8 down, just up. Massive Executions went up 20 points and his enhancement got nerfed. That hurt.
Right, absolutely.
The one saving grace on the favorite of corn is it did go down 10 points. It's only 20 points now. However, it's still 20 points for a once per game thing. So that doesn't feel great. But overall, I'm not super down on World Eaters. I think they're fine.
It's not changed a whole lot. The reason why people are down on World Eaters is because, and so now I'm done being ironic. So if you weren't running I'm going to play Yahtzee dice all game with the Lords of Skulls, and I'm going to spam the shit out of Angron, and I'm going to play against people that think that killing Angron is the answer, and then I'm going to spawn in 5 times. If you're not running that, it's changed the way you're going to play it. You're not going to play, I'm bringing back Angron 3 times in the same game anymore. You're going to, now, I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but I'm saying you're not playing a game where you should plan on bringing Angron back more than once out of 5 combat rounds. And that's assuming that he was dead for 5 combat rounds. It just doesn't feel like it's going to be consistent enough to really play it that way, which I think is what they were going for. I feel like, you're just going to see people building their lists around playing Corn instead of playing Angron, surrounded by people that make him come back.
Yeah, you've definitely, if you're going to run lists like what I currently am running, you've got to be a lot more cautious with Angron now, which kind of defeats the purpose. But World Eaters were a statistical top 5 army, so they did need a little bit of tuning. I think GW may have over-tuned it just a hair, but, we'll see.
I think that the favorite of Corn, honestly, is, you're a little oppressive on it, but for me, it's like with the way the army is, you've got your reroll dice, you've got your full reroll. Essentially putting favorite of Corn, dice giveth and dice taketh away, Lord help me. But putting favorite of Corn in your list, hopefully, guarantees you a turn that you can bring Angron back every game. But I've seen people.
That's not always how it works.
Seen people roll 16 dice with several single rerolls and not get 3 6s. It can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've played a guy at Warzone, and I took Angron down turn 2, and he never re-entered the board, and he had the favorite of Corn enhancement. So
I know that's where a lot of people's heads are at, is that they're like, man, I'm still going to put this shit in my list, and now I don't feel like it's going to do anything when it counts. And so as an overall, it's not that World Eaters have gotten worse, it's that they've gotten grossly more inconsistent, and that's going to lower their placement competitively pretty noticeably, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a fair evaluation. Like I say, I'm not as low on them as a lot of people are, but
I don't
we'll
think we're
definitely
seeing
see.
them drop somewhere drastic like 45%, but I just don't see them. I just don't see them sitting anywhere that's above 50. I think 48% range is where they're about to be, and I just don't see them. Maybe top tens if they're
Yeah,
doing, but I don't really think you're about to see World Eaters take a top 5 in the foreseeable future.
yeah. So one problem when you have nerfs like this on a top 5 army, like a bottom top 5 army, so like they were like pretty unanimously ranked like 4th or 5th.
Right.
The problem is when you get a nerf like this, the internet freaks out, and then all of the good players that were playing World Eaters will immediately swap factions. And so it's just going to plummet the win rate. So the win
That
rate
is
is going to be a little false, but yeah.
And that's so true. And that's also going to, like you said, so the change in itself, you make a really good point. The change in itself put an army that sat at the bottom of top 5 to now it's probably going to sit lower top 10. But unfortunately, like you said, a lot of the high level players are going to just swap to something that's doing better competitively right now in Melee. And that's probably going to drop them maybe even out of top 10 at a lot of events.
Yeah, I'm a perfect example. Like I've been in my head, I had already kind of like settled on taking World Eaters to Cherokee. This drops, and I'm probably gonna take Custodes.
No, absolutely.
So
I remember Cody and I had a he called me crying when this came out, and I was like, "What's the problem?" He said the refund policy on these was 2 days. It's been 3 days.
yeah, basically.
I took him off the sprue, Tony. I took him off the fucking sprue. But so let's go to takeaways here. Obviously, I'm going to start by just saying there are some winners, there are some losers, but just for the record, it's a war game. It's an edition-based war game. It's not a one and done deal. Things ebb and things flow, and if your army walked away looking hot or your army walked away looking not, understand that your time is going to end. Your time is going to come again, no matter what you're playing. If you enjoy this game, keep enjoying this game. Don't let any of this shake the earth for you, unless we're talking about high levels of competitive. If that's not you, your life's going to stay pretty much the same, unless you're fucking Eldar. In which
Yeah.
case, I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like these type things, like there's a like we discussed, like there's a clear winners, there's clear losers of this status league. But at the end of the day, that only truly apply to the higher echelon of competitive players, or people that are trying to be there. Like I
If
say,
you play Warhammer at a shop, this has not affected you for the most part. If you
no,
play Warhammer in tournaments, that's where this shit matters. And in those tournaments, y'all, if you guys are discouraged, Space Wolves will come back. Space Wolves will not suck forever because Games Workshop is not going to let them sit in the warehouse. Let's be real. And if you are, like as an example, super bummed about your Chaos Space Marines, look, y'all, it will come back eventually. It's somebody else's turn. That's the way you got to look at this kind of stuff. It's somebody else's turn. Beginning of a new season of competitive Warhammer is what this is.
yeah, we've got an exciting 6 months ahead of us. And what we're looking at right now, it probably won't even be accurate 2 months from now. I mean, you're talking about you're going to get a Tau Codex next month.
Right. So we know that Dark
and Orc.
We know that that's a lie, and we know that Tau is about to get probably a pretty fair glow up, and they didn't even bother fucking with the Kroot points. They're like, yeah, Kroot Codex win, and that is what it is. And there's going to be, an Orc Codex that's going to come out. And so while most of these armies are going to stay where they're at for the next 6 months, Chaos Knights are about to have a 6-month shelf life. There are definitely, there's still another half a dozen armies that shelf life is going to vary pretty drastically between 1 month and 5 months.
Agree.
So finishing up our takeaways, I'm going to go ahead and say, as far as losers, number 1 loser is Aeldari. Number 2 loser is Chaos Space Marines. And I'm going to say the number 3 loser is Space Wolves because nothing happened. I'm not even going to say World Eaters because it sucks. I'm going to say Space Wolves because they continue to be the wettest, sloppiest, stinkiest fart of this edition. And then, as far as my 3 winners, I'm going to say number 1 winner for me is Chaos Demons. Number 2 winner for me is definitely Chaos Knights. And then, as far as my number 3, it's a little hard. Because it's not Drukhari. Drukhari didn't win here. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten. So my number 2 winner is Chaos Demons. My number 3 winner is Chaos Knights. And for the same reason that my number 3 loser is Space Wolves for nothing happening, my number 1 winner is Necrons because nothing happened. And they are going to sit on top of this game.
Yes. For me, number 1, as we've both agreed, is Necrons, undisputed. Number 2 for me is Custodes. I firmly believe Custodes are an army that is what's about to happen to World Eaters, where all the top players shift off of them. That's what happened to Custodes. Custodes weren't bad. Their win percentage was just bad because none of the top players played them. You're about to see that change.
Y'all have received the Cody Willis blessing to jump ship from World Eaters to Custodes. Top 5. Let's come on this week.
I'm doing it tomorrow. Then number 3 for me would be Chaos Demons. I think. I completely agree with everything you said about them. The top 3 losers. Number 1 loser for me is Space Wolves because they already sucked and then they just got nothing. They literally walked away from today with nothing.
Completely fair. You walked away with an army that, with all things considered, will still lose to Aeldari and Chaos Space Marines.
100%. Because, there's the misconception that Aeldari and Chaos Space Marines are now going to drop to the toilet. That's not the truth. They're going to drop to about bottom mid of the pack. Like, they're still good armies. They're still solid armies. Good players will still win with them. The number 2 loser for me, I think, honestly, would be Drukhari. You get the hope of a new detachment, and then it's just blah. So they didn't quite get the Death Guard treatment. The number 3 loser for me would probably be, honestly, I can't bring myself to call Chaos Space Marines or Aeldari losers. Can't do it. I think the number.
Because, let's be real, Aeldari's still going to sit at a 48 at the worst.
Yeah, well, because now the only people that are going to play them are going to be like faction specialists, like
people that weren't using all 15 fate dice.
Yeah, so they're going to be fine. They'll be in the mid 40s. They'll be fine.
Right.
Honestly, it would probably be Imperial Knights, just because of the glow up that Chaos Knights got, and then everybody and their mama thought that they were going to get their bondsman abilities back, and they didn't.
Which makes most of the abilities on a lot of these data sheets still pretty fucking irrelevant. Especially when, unlike Chaos Knights, they only have access to 2 Armigers and 1 Forge World. That's still more expensive than it probably needs to be.
100%.
And so I'm staring at Daedalus over here, and Daedalus is going to sit there next to the other 5 Imperial Knights that I haven't put together because it's not worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I will honorable mention Custodies just because I think I do agree with that completely. I guess for me, not a huge winner only because the change, the points for me was kind of whatever. But the small change of giving them their ability back, I think puts them back as a serious contender for top of the game. But for me, nothing crazy. We both kind of expected that. The points were nice, but nothing that's going to shake the earth. And then, it's just so fucking disappointing yet again for Drew Carey, because when you were reading, it's ironic because you were reading Real Space Raiders, and I was thinking to myself, I'm waiting for this to get to the good stuff. This is kind of disappointing. And then we were like, oh shit, okay, cool. Let's read the real one now. And it ended up being more disappointing than I was when you read Real Space Raiders.
Yeah, it was rough.
Great rules, poorly thought out. And I just don't see, I think that if some top people play, like you said, it's one of those things that top people will take this and run with it. But look, I'm going to be real. Drew Carey's not winning a super major. Nothing has changed. Drew Carey will be lucky to see a 3-0 top 5 at some serious tournaments just because relying on the ships to stay on the board or worse,
Drukari not ran by Starry.
Right, exactly right. Relying on your guys to get in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out to even access the rules that are good. And then your worst case scenario is you can do that. So now you're relying on the other opponent to just, not shoot them at all. You've got these great rules like, oh, cool, stealth and XYZ on my guys getting out of the tank. The tank is what I want to shoot, right?
Yeah.
That's a real cool ability, man. But I don't know, reading all of this, my goal is basically when you guys get out, I want to make sure the tank dies while you're spending command points over here.
Yep, for sure.
And that's just such a shame because I know that there were a lot of people, I'm sure, that actually read that there was a new detachment that were super fucking hyped. I didn't even know it was a thing, and I wish I wouldn't have. Not knowing what those rules were would have been the only chance they had to beat me in a game with that list.
Fair enough.
It's okay. Now that I said that on live, I'm going to go to Valdosta in a team tournament. I'm going to lose to Drew Carey running the new detachment. And somebody that watched this stream is going to be like, remember when you said they won't beat you?
You're going to be like the entire Art of War team when Sisters of Battle ran through them.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, anyway, I think I'm pretty much ready to close out here. I think it's been a good stream. Everybody's pretty much trickled off as we've closed everything off. And, 3 hours to go over a data slate. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Another one for the archive, ladies and gentlemen. So, anyway, for anyone that's still sitting there, join the official Discord. We continue the conversation over there. We're always active on hobbying. We're always active on communicating about the state of the game and things coming up and events. If you live nearby, stop by Cody's Collectibles and More. That is where everything that we do is centered out of. And, he'll cut you a deal on something, I'm sure. A Coke. He gave me a Coke once and almost didn't charge me for it. Other than that, thank you for watching the stream. We'll be doing Dark Angels on Saturday, and we're thinking about doing a part 2 tomorrow, same time, where we are going to basically go over list building with the winners and losers considered. I mean, obviously, I'm not building a losers list, but we'll be going over each of our favorite detachments from the Save on Six group, the Late Night Hobbies group, the Cocos group. We're all one large conglomerate of people passionate about the game, and we're all going to be going over with several guests, our good friend Joshua, Joey, Cody, and we're going to bring Clay in here. There's going to be a lot of people in here that are excited to talk about what lists they think are going to do well, and a lot of those lists are going to get tried tomorrow. So we'll have some pretty legitimate answers on how this stuff is going to do. So if you're excited about that, if you're excited about the data slate or just Warhammer in general, make sure that you stay tuned and come see us again tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.